Immediate family would be defined as a mother, a father, a sister or brother, or a son or daughter. If one of them would own a property adjacent to or in close proximity to the subject tract, then it would also have to be included in the appraisal in the before valuation and in the after valuation. If the adjacent tracts would increase in value because of being next to a conserved property, then that would be a diminution to the conservation easement or a decrease in its overall easement value. Another factor to be considered would be improvements on the subject land. If there are dwellings on the subject tract or on adjacent tracts that are family owned, if they would increase in value by benefit of the conservation easement, that also must be considered in estimating the conservation easement value. In estimating the value of the property, you must remember that if we have a 200-acre tract of land, that the appraiser is going to be looking for other 200-acre tracts of land to appraise in the before and in the after. Sales of conservation easement tracts in the after would be preferable, but these are few and far between, although we do search the market for those sales if they are available. Most people think that an appraiser will look at a tract of land, and if 20 lots are allowed under subdivision, you would estimate the value of one lot times 20 for the value in the before. That is not the case. IRS has stated that the sales comparison approach, which is like tracts against like tracts, is the most desirable form of appraisal, and the land development technique can only be utilized as a backup if used at all. The other thing to remember in the land development technique is that discounting is involved, the cost of grading, the cost of engineering, the cost of extending roads. All of those costs must be deducted from the total value of the lots times the lot value. The road frontage would play into the physically possible portion of the highest and best use I discussed earlier. If the site has access, it can be potentially subdivided depending on the county's zoning and subdivision ordinances. The longer the road frontage, the easier the access would be and the more desirable the tract would be. The lesser road frontage, the lower the accessibility rating would be, and also the harder it would be to gain access into the property. If the property is accessible only by an easement, it is further hampered by its difficulty of meeting subdivision requirements and regs for the county. The main problems that can be associated with an inflated appraisal would be the tax credits are in jeopardy. In other words, you could lose your tax benefits, and the second possibility would be an audit by the Internal Revenue Service based upon the fraudulent or inflated appraisal. Like any consumer, the property owner should ask the appraiser questions about the service that he will be receiving. The items to be discussed would be, is the appraiser a qualified appraiser? Have you done conservation easements before? What will I be receiving will this be a one-part or a two-pronged process? How will you approach the appraisal question? These are all reasonable questions for any appraiser and are ones that should be asked by the landowner. In addition, the landowner should understand what they will actually be receiving from the appraiser. My firm approaches the appraisal process as a two-pronged process. The on-site inspection is done, we meet with the landowner, and we then go and research sales and prepare a letter of opinion, which is a very minute document. It might be 6 pages long, but we have done all the work to do a complete report. The fee for that is usually 2/3 of the total appraisal fee. If the landowner decides at that point to proceed farther and complete the conservation easement, then we complete the appraisal report, which may be as many as 30 to 70 pages long. and is a fully documented narrative style summary appraisal report. The fee for an appraisal is a pretty tricky question. It really depends on the type of property and the amount of time involved in the assignment. Our firm has performed appraisal assignments on conservation easements that vary from a low of $3,500 to a high of $12,000 or more. It depends on the complexion and complexity of the assignment. Are there other easements involved? Are there adjacent properties involved? All the things that I've discussed earlier go into making that up. It is based purely on the amount of time it takes to prepare the appraisal report for the landowner. After the appraisal is completed, but before the credits are applied for with the income tax, any appraiser has to sign the Form 8283, which verifies that an appraisal was done on the property and the value of the easement. This is done and is filed with the tax return for the landowner. The timing of the appraisal is dependent on really the landowner, but what you have to understand is that a real estate appraiser really gets involved in the process after the draft conservation easement is prepared. Of course, the landowner is welcome to call us and discuss it, but we really can't start our work as far as estimating the before and the after value until we have a draft at least of the conservation easement. At that point, we can start our work and prepare that letter of opinion. Now, some other items to be kept in mind. December 31st. All donations have to be made by December 31st of a year in order to be utilized in that tax year. Another thing to keep in mind is that real estate appraisers are very, very busy November and December of any year. That is our April 15th of the year, December 31st. People want to do deals before the year's up. So the earlier in the year we can start on the process, the better we are. But we don't want to complete that final appraisal until the conservation easement is recorded, because under IRS guidelines we have to be within a 60-day window of the appraisal date and the recordation of the easement in order for that to be valid. So everything is kind of like dominoes. It has to be stacked up and placed just right, but the appraiser is not on the front end of the process, he's more in the middle. So as long as you understand that, and we're not talking the very end of the year, we're in good shape.